How old's your son?
All right, you are now live.
Okay, great. Let's get started. I can answer your question, Nancy, after the recording. So welcome everyone to the September meeting. Hopefully everyone had a great summer. And I'm going to call the meeting to order and do the land acknowledgement. The Halifax Regional Municipality is located in the Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq peoples. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and acknowledges that we are all treaty people. Next, I'll do the roll call. So as Elizabeth mentioned before the meeting, our chair, Doreen, is unable to make it. Then there's myself, I'm here. Councillor Virginia Hinch.
Here.
There you are, excellent. Councillor Nancy Hartley. There you are as well. Rihanna, and I apologize, can you pronounce your last name for me? She's not here. Okay. Delaney.
Here.
Great, thank you. Cheryl Murphy. There you are. Cheryl Copage.
Jihu.
Jihu, thank
Yeah.
you. And I know I'm going to mispronounce, is she here? Mahari Graham.
It's all good. It's Mari.
Mari, thank you, Mari. And Natalie Borden.
Yes, thank you.
Great, excellent. We do have one regret. Debbie is unable to make it. And support staff, we have Carla. I see Carla. Amy, I see you as well. I believe, yeah, there. Is Rain here?
Yep, I'm here.
Yes. Oh, excellent. And Elizabeth. Fantastic. We have everyone.
And
Awesome.
Rhiannon is in the meeting. She just might be having some issues with her mic. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I am here.
Great. Excellent, Rihanna. Great to have you. Okay, so we have everyone here. The next order of business is the minutes from our August meeting. Are there any errors or omissions that anyone wants to make note of? Everyone's good. Okay, so let me call for a motion to approve the minutes of August 7th, 2025.
So
To be
moved.
approved. Sorry, who put their hand up
Oh,
first?
sorry. Nancy Hartling.
Nancy, excellent. And a
I
seconder?
can second it.
Excellent.
Virginia.
So do I need to call for everyone to say aye? I believe that's the
You can
next
just
thing.
call for the question, see if all who is in favor.
Okay, all in favor? Any nays?
I'm just going to abstain, Michelle, or I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, great. So I'll declare that the motion carries then.
Perfect.
Great. All right, let's move on to the next agenda item, the approval of the order of business and approval of additions or deletions. Are there any additions or deletions, Elizabeth?
There are no additions or deletions from the clerk's office.
Great. And from the members, are there any additions or deletions or suggestions that want to be added? No? All right. I will call for a motion that the agenda be approved as presented.
I'll move that. It's Cheryl.
Thanks,
Murphy.
Cheryl. Murphy, great. And I need a second.
Second
I'll
it, Natalie.
Natalie, thank you. Call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Excellent. Any opposed or nay? All right, I'll declare the motion carries. All right, business arising out of the minutes. There is no business in arising out of the minutes. I'll call for a declaration of conflict of interest. Are there any members that want to declare conflict of interest based on the agenda? No, I don't see anyone. Well, we're good. There were no petitions or, sorry, I need to ask you, Elizabeth, were there any petitions?
No petitions and no correspondence has been received by the clerk's office.
Great, thank you. All right, well, we've got two great discussion items on the agenda for the presentation section. And the first one, we have Sherry Foster from 2011 Nova Scotia. She's the manager of marketing and communications, and she's here to share information about that program. We had talked, I think in our last meeting, about a number of topics that were important to us, and this was one of the topics. So we're privileged to have Sherry here today. Thank you very much for coming, and please go ahead and prepare your presentation. I think we've allocated about 10 minutes for that, and then time for questions.
Yep, and I'll let you know, Sherry, once your time's coming to an end.
Thank you.
You should be able to share, you should have the ability to share your screen.
Excellent. Okay, I'm hoping you can see that.
Look
Good.
good. Yep.
Wonderful. All right. So thank you all so much for having me. As mentioned, my name is Sherry Forrester. I'm adjust my screen so I can see here. That'll do. All right, without further ado, let's get started. So 201 Nova Scotia is a free and confidential information and referral service that connects people to community, not-for-profit, and government programs and services. So to put it a little bit more simply, when someone is experiencing an unmet human need, they can reach out to 211 and we'll connect them with resources that serve their community. So we don't offer any of these resources directly. Instead, we act as a centralized hub for people and service providers to connect to a network of available supports. So why does 211 exist? Well, we've all had the experience at one time or another where we didn't know where to start with a particular problem, have gotten frustrated or overwhelmed when calling different organizations or government departments trying to connect with the correct person. So this ends up transpiring into a few different scenarios. So it might mean that a person may choose to not seek help because they don't know where to start or they believe that help is not available. So this is common for people who are new to an area or have received a new medical diagnosis, for example. A person may give up on finding help out of frustration or lack of resources. We see this with folks who have insufficient minutes on their cell phones or maybe don't have access to a computer or the internet at home. And another example is that a person may find help, but the help might not be as complete or well suited as it could be to their situation. So an example of this might be that a person needs food support and they've heard about their local food bank, but they live in their car, tent, or are couch surfing, and they might not have proper cooking or storage facilities. 211 Nova Scotia is an internationally accredited information and referral service. So that requires us to adhere to strict rules around how our service is conducted, what can be included in our database, and how the information in the database is managed. So one of these requirements is for our data team to verify each record in the database each year, in addition to adding, deleting, and maintaining the records on an as-needed basis. So currently we have approximately 7,000 records in our database that are verified on an annual basis. So this is an important component of our work because the quality of our referrals is contingent on the quality of our database. So to help guide our work, we have strict inclusion and exclusion criteria for our database. So typically private For-profit and commercial organizations are not included in our database unless they offer a service that is either free or low cost and open to the general public. Also, religious organizations are not typically included or are only included if they provide a service or a program without the expectation that a person participates in religious activities or subscribes to their particular beliefs. So as mentioned, we have about 7,000 records in our database, and the majority of these records are publicly accessible from our website. So people can find these resources on our website through a keyword search or by navigating one of our topics. So this slide here and the next one show a selection of those topics. So I always find it helpful to show these because it's a common misconception that 211 is for folks who are low income, are not comfortable using the internet, or are maybe experiencing an emergency situation. But 211 is a service that is available and for anyone and everyone that wants to ensure that they are well connected and resourced. So for example, on our website, you would see, in addition to the resources I have listed here for food support, for folks who are struggling to afford food, we also have resources such as cooking classes and programs that assist older adults and people with disabilities in accessing nutritious meals. So 211 Nova Scotia's navigators use an approach that we call compassionate inquiry. And they use this to build trust and to create a welcoming environment to address the needs of the individual. So for 211, compassionate inquiry means to use an empathetic, non-judgmental, and trauma-informed approach to each contact. So this is important because our navigators need to quickly build trust with the individual as they complete their needs-based assessment to ensure they understand both the presenting and underlying needs and are able to appropriately provide resources to the individual. For example, we might have 3 people in any given week reach out for food support. So through the navigator's assessment, they may learn that the first person has recently lost their job. The second person looking for food support has left an abusive partner, and the third person has lost a loved one. So on the surface, these 3 contacts appear very similar because they're all experiencing food insecurity due to a decline or a complete loss of household income, but they each have very differing underlying needs that will need to be addressed to ensure that they do not continue to experience food insecurity. So there are many different ways that people can interact with 211 Nova Scotia. So our community resource navigators are accessible by telephone, email, text messaging, and web-based chat. So our phone lines are answered by a trained community resource navigator 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including holidays and weekends. And on our phone lines, we also have access to an interpretation service where a third-party individual joins the call and interprets the conversation in real time. So the service is available in over 240 languages and is typically accessed in under a minute during the call. So in addition to phone calls, people can also reach out via email, text messaging, and chat, which are available during more traditional business hours. These time constraints are currently in place because these forms of communication are a little bit more labor intensive and time intensive for our navigators. So 211 services are a resource for service providers such as yourselves. So we hope to act as a safety net when you receive questions that you're not able to assist with. We're here to support and augment your work by handling or redirecting questions and issues that are outside of your scope, and providing complementary supports and resources when needed or when your resources have been exhausted. So if you are reaching out on behalf of someone else, we encourage you to identify who you are, where you're calling from, to our navigators, share the needs or situation that you're trying to address. So our goal is to free up your time, streamline the process for you, and to ensure that you and the folks that you're helping get the resources that are needed. So if reaching out or advocating on behalf of someone isn't the right option for the situation, we encourage you to refer people directly to us. As mentioned, our navigators are trained to listen, ask questions, and provide confidential support. So in some situations, it can be a bit easier to share difficult circumstances with someone on the phone rather than someone from your community or someone face to face. And lastly, we offer custom presentations such as this one, website tutorials, and printed information materials free of charge. So the materials in particular are great to have on hand as an extra layer of support when the request is outside of your scope, or just, if someone isn't ready to accept the help that they perhaps need in that moment. And thank you so much for your time. The QR code here actually links to some request forms for some of those materials that I mentioned and some key contacts within our organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherry. That was great information, and really appreciate you taking the time to come in and share that with us. Let me just look at my speakers list. We'll go through and have each of the speakers share their comments or questions with you. That's okay. So we'll start with Cheryl Murphy.
So I'm just sitting back here thinking to myself, what a great tool for all of us, and to share within our smaller groups, whether they be our friend groups or organizations that we're involved with in the community outside of this committee. A wealth of knowledge there, I can see, and I may even have a look at some of the older people's recreational opportunities there. Anyway.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Cheryl. Rhiannon, do you have any questions or comments?
No questions, no. Thank you very much for the presentation. I really appreciated it.
Thank you.
Great. Delaney. Delaney here.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's such a great resource. I've used it personally and professionally, and it's been really great. No questions.
Thanks, Delaney. Councillor Hinch.
Yes. Thank you for the presentation. It was a great one. There's one question, and I've used 211 my own self a time or two as well. The one thing that you stated was free services, and then I saw housing and rental ownership. How does that equate to free services?
So an example of those would be like the grants, so the targeted housing benefit, housing support. There are renovation grants specifically targeted to seniors or older adults, or folks who are low income. So those would be examples of some of the resources that would fall into those categories.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Good. Councillor Hartling.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And thank you, Sherry, so much for the presentation. All right, let me see here. I just want to confirm IPV, that stands for Intimate Partner Violence. I just want to confirm that acronym. Is that what it's there? Okay. Yeah. That was my first one. And I'm wondering, do you have any metrics to share on like how often it is used, what services tend to be leveraged more than others? That was one of my questions, just because there's such a breadth of services there. I was just wondering if you had any comments on, what people are seeking out the most, or where we as community leaders might lean in a little bit more. I had that question. And I just want to confirm that it is confidential. The service itself is confidential.
Yes, so it is confidential. It's not anonymous, which is sort of a line that we have to draw because folks' phone numbers will come up. We do have a duty to report, but it is confidential.
Okay. And then my last question is, how do you let your services be known within the wider community. Like I think maybe to Cheryl's point, there's lots of great things here. I suspect that a lot more people would be leveraging it more if they knew about it more. So I'm just kind of wondering how you explain yourself to Nova Scotians, because like I said, I feel like this is something that probably doesn't have as much visibility as it might. And so those are my questions. Thanks.
Yeah, so you asked about metrics and visibility. So we had about 80,000 contacts last year. So if you go on our website, we do have data that we share. I actually publish a quarterly data report and I break it down by county. And so you can see the top needs and the top unmet needs by county and for the province as a whole. And so housing is definitely a huge issue that we are seeing. It's one of the bigger issues that we're experiencing. But there are subtleties. I can't pull it up in on the tip of my tongue at the moment of what sort of the top issues are for HRM, but you wouldn't be surprised with them. Their food, their housing, they're things that we know about, their basic needs. But you can see our quarterly calls, our annual calls, or annual contacts, and all that. And as for awareness, we do presentations, we do materials. We are a small not-for-profit. Our team is under 20 people, and I'm responsible for all provincial awareness. And there is only just one of me with a little budget. So yes, I would love for all of you to help us spread the word. We are on social media, we are promoting, and we do get quite a few contacts, which includes the calls, texts, and emails. But most of our contacts are calls. I think it's something like 90% of the people that reach out are calling in. And yeah, it's concentrated in HRM. So the majority of our contacts do come from HRM, and I think the second largest area is around Sydney, Cape Breton, but the majority of our contacts do come from HRM.
That's great. Thank you so much. And if by chance you wanted to share one of those quarterly reports about HRM statistics, I would certainly love to see them. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent questions, Nancy, and thank you for answering these questions. And if you want to send us a quarterly report, we can have Elizabeth send it up to this group so we can spend more time with your information. Much appreciated. Cheryl.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi, Sherry. Thank you for the presentation. That was so full of information. I'm wondering what types of connects have you made with our Indigenous communities? I just know that a lot of our community health centers provide programs and in particular for seniors, they have like senior groups, senior meetings, and I don't know if they've really been outreaching to this service, but I think it would be a really great connect because we have our communities in the HRM area, but we also have it throughout Nova Scotia. Like there's communities everywhere and they all run their own individual senior programs.
Yeah, we have really great relationships with the Indigenous communities, but we do require that permission is given for us to have the information in our database. And so there certainly are organizations out there that haven't provided the permission, but we also do have a full topic dedicated to Indigenous resources because it is such a priority and importance. And it is an area that we are continuing to expand and work on and, develop because we see the importance of that.
Okay, great. Thank you. If you can share that Indigenous resource, that would be really wonderful as well.
Happily.
Great. Thank you. Great question. And that'd be awesome. And Mari?
Hi, Sherry. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really didn't know about the full scope of resources that 211 had, so I'm definitely going to pass it along to as many people as I know need help with those areas. And no questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mari. Natalie.
Thanks for joining us today, Sherry, and taking some time out of your schedule to share the information with us. Just one question I had. I was surprised to hear you say that most of your inquiries come through telephone. Do you have a sense of, is text growing? Because I know in some of the other work that I've done in outreach and communicating with people, we just keep hearing text, 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 that no one's using the phone anymore. So are you seeing some significant growth in the percentage that are texting, or is it just slow going in that area and still the phone maintains the domination?
We are seeing slow growth in text messaging and chat. So some constraints on that are that the texting service is only available from 9 to 4, and it's Monday to Friday, where you can call in at all hours, all days, with phone calls. And we are now in 2025 expanding and really targeting youth and trying to make them a priority. So we anticipate that texting will increase as we get the word out to more youth throughout the province. But yeah, it is sort of a trend that we have seen that, texting is not the fastest way. And I'm not sure about you folks, but, I'll send a text message and then I might come back a minute later or 2 minutes later. That doesn't work as well with our system because the navigator is dedicated to that text message conversation. They're not answering 2 and 3 people at a time. They're dedicated to that one person. And so it does take a lot more time. And that limits how much they can respond to, how many contacts they can respond to. So I do think that people do prefer phone calls. It is a little bit more efficient for the caller as well as our navigator. And also our demographics do skew a bit older.
Okay. I was going to ask about that. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Sherry.
Great. Thanks, Manley. I guess it ends with me. A lot of my questions have already been asked, which is fantastic. And we look forward to getting some of that information from you so we can share and think about it. I guess I would say it's a really important service that we're pleased to sort of record this and have this on our site and share it that way. Is there anything else we can do beyond sharing within our networks that would be helpful for you?
I would love to send you all some information materials and just have you help spread the word, reach out if there's anything else that we can do to support you folks. We very much see this as a reciprocal relationship that, we're here to support you folks and, perhaps you can help us spread awareness in your communities and in your roles, and everyone benefits.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sherry. Really enjoyed having you here, and you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Try and get out and enjoy the sun if you can.
You take care.
Okay, cheers. All right, well, that was good. Was there anything anybody else would like to share about that topic, or any thoughts after we've asked our questions that would be relevant to this committee? Okay, sounds like we covered all the ground. And hopefully we will have her send that information. And Elizabeth, if you'd be so kind, you can share it with this committee and we can keep ourselves up to date and share with our networks.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can definitely follow up with her.
Fantastic, thank you. So the next part of the agenda is really around the strategic plan. Now, if you recall, we talked a lot about that in our August meeting, how it's important to start with that big picture vision of what the city HRM wants to do as we go through our year of agendas and sort of give us a bit of context of where the priorities are. So in the agenda, there were some links and information if people had opportunity to review beforehand, with a number of sort of probing questions to help you think about where the priorities are for the organization or for the city. And we thought it might be helpful, and I apologize to the councillors in advance. I know you've sat through this personally already, but Doreen and the group felt it was important that we all kind of listen to at least 20 minutes of the presentation together, just to ensure we hear it together and then have a conversation about it. And think about how this impacts our work, if there's anything else we need to be focused on going forward. So I'll pass it over to Elizabeth to set up the video for us.
Perfect. So I have
To
it
get
ready
started.
to go here. And I know I mentioned when I distributed the agenda package, it's a 40-minute video. As Michelle mentioned, it's just going to be like a 20-minute kind of snippet of it. Anyone, of course, is more than welcome to watch the entire thing online if they would like to. But this was kind of seen to be the most relevant part to this committee. The first, I would say, at least 10 or so minutes of the presentation, I was kind of going over how it was developed and how it's council's plan and that sort of thing. So yeah, anyone that is interested in seeing beyond this or hasn't already watched it can definitely do so on YouTube. And it'll just be a minute here for me to share my screen. Is everyone able to see that? Perfect. Okay, so this should work. Have to try.
Liz, I think you have to, this is Zoom, but in Teams you have to share audio in addition to the video when you're sharing. I don't know if Zoom has the same.
Okay, again. Going into advanced sharing options, which it says I can't change.
Well, I guess it's showing the caption below, so maybe you're not able to share the audio.
Audio settings, or if anyone else.
Sorry, I don't know if it's helpful, but typically when I forget to share the sound in addition, I'll just like stop sharing. And then when you go to reshare, there should be a little button down below that says to share your sound in addition to the video. That's
Thanks,
how I
Jen.
typically go about it.
Yeah.
Give that a try. I've never seen that come up before in Zoom, but maybe it's just.
Yeah, it's usually either a little checkbox down below that says to share sound as well, or sometimes it's off to the side where you have to click it.
Oh, I do see that. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, sorry about that, everyone. So we wanted to start on a slide here. All right, let me know.
Administrative priorities and associated goals are established by the administration and the Chief Administrative Officer in collaboration with municipal leadership and staff, and they intended to deliver on Council's priorities. So as the CAO.
Anyone, is that working? It is. Okay. Okay. I'll let it go for just the 20 then.
Mentioned, as part of this strategic plan, the strategic plan adopts the use of strategic lenses as part of our strategic planning framework. So the three strategic lenses are equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility, environment and climate action, and service excellence. By using a lens approach, specific areas are elevated and reoriented in the strategic plan by weaving them across all priority areas. This is a reflection that the municipality has matured and embeds equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility, environment and climate action, and service excellence in operational decision-making. Strategic lenses enable the municipality to consider a problem, decision, or action from different points of view. In doing so, the municipality ensures the resident experience is reflected in its work. Strategic lenses are not temporary initiatives. They are how the municipality must conduct its day-to-day business on an ongoing basis. Council priorities are established by council and represent the key areas of significance to residents. The 3 council priorities identified for the strategic plan are enabling prosperity, strengthening communities, and moving better. The following slides will provide an overview of each of the priorities, their associated goals, and the high-level feasibility assessment with key pieces of information highlighted for each of them. As the CEO mentioned, and outlined in the feasibility assessment attachment to the recommendation report, the strategic plan team has worked with the business units to assess each of the goals and results for their feasibility at a high level. So as a reminder, feasibility, just in terms of the context of what we are trying to position here, is what can realistically be achieved when factoring in the mandate of the municipality, existing strategies and plans that are approved or in development, and resource requirements to deliver on those goals and results. Feasibility should be reviewed within the context of each priority. So for example, council priorities with large capital requirements will require significantly more resources than some of the administrative priorities, where in the context of an administrative priority, that need may be lesser. For example, additional staffing or project-specific funding. And it's important to note that this is not a full financial analysis of the feasibility of the plan, but it's an initial blush. And in some cases, I like to use the term, it's more of an art than a science, just because of the inability to apply a numeric or value rather to some of these projects. We can provide some specific examples of where resources may be required, but as the CEO noted, there may be a requirement for a decision of council on whether to fund these initiatives or these goals and actions. So the enabling prosperity priority focuses on growing strategically in serviced areas, boosting housing supply, strengthening infrastructure against climate change, fostering inclusive economic growth, and attracting global talent and investment. The goals outlined in EP01 through EP05 aim to foster sustainable and inclusive regional development. So I'm not going to read each of the goals, but I'll walk you through them at a high level. So key priorities include focusing growth in well-serviced areas, as seen in EP01, accelerating housing supply and building complete accessible communities in EP02, and enhancing infrastructure resilience to address climate change impacts. Additionally, the plan emphasizes inclusive economic participation for residents and businesses, boosting economic activity through municipal capital projects, and promoting Halifax as a tourism destination, while also strengthening the region's competitiveness by attracting and retaining global talent and investment. So to set the context for these feasibility slides, red boxes indicate that significant resources may be required or will be required to deliver on the goal. Yellow boxes indicate where specific projects or initiatives could require significant resources to deliver. As it relates to feasibility and resources, when we say additional resources, this could include existing approved capital funding, so things that already are in capital budgets or maybe have been funded but have not been paid for yet, or the partial funding is approved and there may be an instance where additional funding may be required or approval for additional funding may be required. EP01 and EP04 demonstrate potential for advancement with capacity to proceed within current resource levels. A combination of approved and in-development strategies will guide development. However, specific projects to support these, such as the Milko Ferry or bus rapid transit, will require significant resources. Investments in capital projects or land development to stimulate economic growth may require significant investments before economic benefits are realized. EP02 and EP03 are less likely to affect significant change without substantial investment to align to the strategic direction in place, specifically the Regional Plan Phase 4. And there will be significant additional costs to deliver infrastructure to support the increased housing supply and new development as the municipality grows, as it relates to EP02. The Strengthening Communities priority focuses on building a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable community. This includes emergency initiatives aimed at improving preparedness and response, social initiatives to support vulnerable populations and equitable access, and environmental actions that target major emissions reductions, and natural asset protection. Together, they promote well-being, safety, and long-term sustainability. So the Strengthening Communities Goals, SC01 and SC02, are focused on proactive emergency planning and effective response mechanisms. SC03, 04, and 05, which is on the next slide, focus on community well-being and social equity, emphasizing inclusive access to municipal services and programs and facilities, and support for vulnerable populations. Access or accessibility in the context of this plan, by the way, refers to ensuring that all residents, regardless of ability, can participate fully and equitably. And it also refers to the availability and the affordability of municipal programs and services. So please keep that in mind when we're talking about the context of access in this plan. SC06 and SC07 focus on climate action and ecological stewardship, promoting carbon reduction and the preservation of natural systems. An example action for this priority could be the advancement of the Blue Mountain Birch Cove Urban National Park development. So as it relates to the feasibility of these goals, the likelihood of achieving progress within the strategic plan period varies across the Strengthening Communities goals, depending on the resource needs, strategic readiness, and level of municipal control. Goals with the highest likelihood of progress between 2026 and 2030 include SC03, SC06, and SC07, which are supported by existing strategies and manageable resource requirements. And those are the boxes with the white cells in the likelihood to affect column. SC02, 04, and 05 with the yellow show moderate potential for impact, with most initiatives achievable using minimal additional municipal resources or investment. And SC01 requires significant new investment and further strategy development to affect change. Significant resources will be required to ensure that all municipal infrastructure that supports essential services are maintained in a state of readiness for an emergency situation. The Moving Better priority aims to improve transportation by managing congestion, enhancing transit reliability, expanding sustainable travel options, increasing safety, and strengthening connectivity and infrastructure to meet community needs. MB01 focuses on managing traffic congestion and improving the efficiency of the overall transportation network. MB02 focuses on improving the reliability of the transit network and scalable public transit. And MB05 aimed at maintaining consistent service and adapting to population needs. MB03 focuses on expanding access to sustainable transportation options such as walking, cycling, and transit. MB04 focuses on transportation safety, reducing accidents and enhancing the security for all users of all modes. Sorry, let's go back here. MB06 and 07 focus on improving community connections and ensuring transportation infrastructure supports a cohesive, resilient, and well-maintained transportation network. The Moving Better priority faces significant resource requirements and coordination with partners, which may limit the pace of implementation within the strategic plan period. Additionally, the planning and design for and execution of complex projects such as the Milko Ferry and Bus Rapid Transit may exceed the plan period. So we may be able to begin work on those projects, but it's unlikely they will complete the work in the time frame of the strategic plan. MB04 on transportation safety is mostly achievable within existing resources, although select initiatives may require additional investment. And the remaining goals require substantial new resources and involve shared responsibilities with other partners, making progress less certain within the plan period. Now, as the CEO noted, I don't want this all to be a wall of red and fear that we're not going to accomplish things. There's many things that we will be able to deliver and accomplish within the plan period, but there are significant investments in infrastructure and projects that will require substantial funding if we choose to advance or meet expectations at the level that council or community may set. So please bear that in mind. There is lots of good work that is happening. It's not all a negative, a wall of red. As an organization, we will also advance our administrative priorities, responsible administration, and our people. In alignment with our values, these priorities clearly outline how we will conduct our work and ensure that we are set up for success in delivering municipal programs and services. So as I mentioned earlier, the feasibility component of this section where they're not a debt-related investment, generally they're not debt-related or capital-related investments, requests or requirements for additional funding from a feasibility standpoint are generally less intensive because they'll typically revolve around additional staffing needs or project-specific funding and not significant capital investments. So the responsible administration priority focuses on sustainable financial and asset management, climate-conscious operations, and delivering efficient, user-focused services. It prioritizes meaningful community engagement, strong intergovernmental collaboration, and proactive risk management to support long-term resilience and effective governance. RA01 and RA02 focus on sustainable fiscal and asset management, ensuring long-term service delivery through responsible financial stewardship and infrastructure upkeep. RA03 focuses on achieving net zero emissions in municipal operations aligned to the Halifax strategy or plan. RA04 focuses on service excellence and efficient user-centered accessible services. RA05 and 06 focus on public engagement and collaboration with other levels of government and our partners, and RA07 focuses on risk management for the municipality. And some examples of priority of actions that could be developed in order to support these goals and the associated results could be, for example, the relaunch of the civics program to enhance education to residents on how local government functions, or a development of a point of interaction survey for the customer experience. So responsible administration priority is positioned to achieve progress within the strategic plan period, focused on or supported by existing strategies and manageable resource requirements. RA03 and RA07, the two in red, will require significant additional investment and further development to achieve full implementation. As it relates to RA03, the continuation of the climate action tax, now the strategic infrastructure and climate action funding, was recently approved at Council, but significant additional funding will be required to achieve Halifax in the aligned initiatives of the Integrated Mobility Plan. And additionally, addressing strategic and enterprise risk, as mentioned earlier in our discussions with Mr. Traves, the development of the municipality's enterprise risk management and risk management processes may require additional resources. RA04, as it relates to RA04, and this is timely as it relates to recent events at Council. So while a service review framework is in development and will return to Council in late 2020-25, there's currently no overarching corporate strategy as it relates to service reviews and continuous improvement processes. So full implementation of a service review framework may require significant investment, as we'll speak to later in the year. However, staff will continue toward implementing some of the efficiencies and cost savings that we identified at the July 8th Council meeting into the 26-27 municipal budget. In support of RA01 and to strengthen the municipalities and preserve the municipality's financial position, Regional Council recently directed staff to return to Council with a corporate user fee policy and pricing strategy, including cost recovery guidelines, inflation adjustment protocols, and fee exemption criteria. The Our People priority focuses on a healthy, inclusive, and well-performing workplace, including fostering equity and accessibility, attracting and retaining skilled talent, expanding learning and development opportunities, and promoting a culture of safety and well-being. OP01 focuses on fostering equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility in our workplace. OP02 focuses on talent attraction and retention, ensuring that the organization has the right people and the right to meet the service demands. OP03 focuses on learning and development, supporting capacity building, professional development, and career progression. And OP04 focuses on workplace well-being and creating a healthy environment that prioritizes employee health and safety. OP03 and OP04 are positioned to advance within the strategic plan period, supported by existing municipal strategies and with minimal resource requirements. OP01 may require significant investment, and this depends in part on the impact of the Provincial Accessibility Act on workplace requirements. We don't know quite what that impact will be at this point yet, but without funding from the province, it's likely that significant additional investment may be required depending on the Accessibility Act implementation and the requirements under legislation. And OP02, as it relates to addressing market gaps and updating benefit cost sharing, particularly for non-union groups, may require or likely will require additional investment. So while improvements to existing resource recruitment processes and system enhancements are underway, achieving meaningful progress may require additional staffing and technology resources. And please keep in mind that this is in context of the administrative priorities, so we're not talking about a large capital outlay, but additional funding to perhaps support improvements to the benefits processes. To gauge the success of the strategic plan, we are going to continue to improve upon its monitoring and reporting mechanisms. So the strategic plan will be measured with two types of strategic indicators. So we have priority indicators, which tell us about the state of our communities or targeted service recipients. And there is a likely, with priority indicators, there's a shared accountability for many of these indicators, as there are other entities that play a role in the impact or delivery of or influencing of these results. So I'll give an example. So one of the priority indicators under, an example of a priority indicator could be mode share. And I've heard mode share mentioned a few times recently through the survey that we had on prioritization. Impacting mode share, while it indicates how people are choosing to move about the region, people's decisions on what mode to use may be impacted by many factors outside of our control. So there could be and could be outside of our investments or the infrastructure that we provide, or even the availability of transit. So while we put that out there as an indicator for community purposes, it's not necessarily something that we have full control over, and that applies to many of the priority indicators. So it's important to keep that in mind, that while we measure and report on them, that there are factors outside of our control that will influence our performance or results. On the more of an internal perspective side, the performance indicators measure the achievement of the goals outlined in the plan and are more closely aligned with the municipality's area of accountability. So an example of a performance indicator that we could highlight for today might be the Network Average Pavement Quality Index, and that's a measure of the municipality of the pavement surface distress index and roughness, and that can be directly impacted by investments in that the municipality makes in maintaining its road infrastructure. So that's more of a measure of our ability to control the quality of our asset and perhaps the experience of the residents as they utilize that infrastructure. So these two types of indicators will work together to provide information about what we're doing as a municipality, how well we're doing it, and how well it's impacting residents. Currently, there are many strategic indicators, and the corporate planning performance team will be working with business units over the coming months to assess the quality of the data, identify targets, and compile baseline data. This exercise may result in a reduction or replacement of indicators as are outlined in the existing plan that was provided to you. A final list of those indicators should be provided to you in the fall, once we had a chance to assess them for quality and validity. So reporting on the plan will be accomplished primarily through two reports. The progress report will be an annual report that will begin in June of the second year of the plan, so 2027. The progress report will provide a more narrative update on the strategic plan's progress, focusing on the achievement of actions outlined in the action plan in support of the plan's goals and priorities. And there will be an annual performance report provided to Regional Council starting in the second year of the plan, along with an update on the public strategic dashboard, and that is the municipality's what is called now the Strategic Performance Snapshot is on the municipality's website. That will be refreshed with the new indicators. Each of the priorities will be assessed using their respective priority indicators, and the municipality's performance will be assessed using the performance indicators. All of these indicators, their values, and any changes to the suite of indicators will be provided in the annual performance report. Over the coming months, we'll be working to implement the strategic plan with the following milestones for fall 2025. So we will be developing an action plan with the intent to bring that back in, I believe, October at this point. And it's an action plan for years 1 and 2. We'll confirm the strategic indicators for the strategic plan and bring that at the same time. And beginning in 2026-27, the action plan will guide the 26-27 business planning cycle, including the development of business plans, budgets, and any associated work that occurs in business plans. April 1st, 2026 will mark the official implementation of the strategic plan and the beginning of the ongoing governance. And over the life of the plan, Regional Council can expect annual progress and performance reporting to support informed plan monitoring and decision making, and a mid-cycle review in 2027 to ensure that the plan is still meeting all the priorities and goals of Council and effectively directing municipal resources to support them. Action plans represent the work of the administration to progress towards the achievement of the goals and the associated results. So the action plans will link the strategic plan goals and results with business plans and budgets that we'll be developing on an annual basis. They'll essentially form the framework for how we build the plans over the next coming years. So there will be 2 action plans, as I mentioned, for the strategic plan. Action plans for year 1 and 2, which will be developed this coming fall and will guide 26, 27, 27, 28. And action plan for year 3 and 4, 28, 29, 29, 30, and that will be developed and launched mid-cycle. It could be a continuation of the existing actions or new as required to meet pressures or opportunities as they occur over the course of the plan. Many of the actions will be SMART, so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound to ensure that we can measure the plan and its progress appropriately. And their alignment, and they will be aligned to appropriate performance measures to ensure that we can actually accurately track and report on progress to Regional Council.
All right, so that was 20 minutes, or that was kind of the 20-minute portion of it.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. That was great. Hopefully folks found that valuable, a little bit of a refresher for our counselors and potentially staff who are working on it. And I'd like to sort of, on behalf of this committee and as a resident in this area, I'd really like to thank all the folks that worked on that, whether they were councils or staff. Based on what I've read, it was quite a rigorous process with lots of workshops and lots of hard work that went into it. And I feel like it's a great strategy that's preparing the city for the needs that the residents are asking for. So thank you for those who worked on it. Really appreciate it, and thought we'd maybe open it up and we had sent out some probing questions for you guys to think about, like how does the strategy, now that you've seen it, impact the work and the role of this committee? What surprised you? Was there anything missing when you reflect on it? And what advice that we could give to our counselors that are in this committee to help support the work that we do? There are probably other questions, other observations, but we wanted to put those out. Sorry, somebody was about to say something.
Sorry, that was me. I was just going to say I'm going to paste those into the chat as well.
Great.
So Michelle, this is Cheryl GU. I'll provide. I had a chance to go through it, and I really didn't see any reflection of the unique relationship that the Indigenous people have with the city. We're not underrepresented population. We are not a minority group. We're actually treaty holders. And I think to be respectful and have a respectful relationship with the Indigenous community, any wording needs to reflect that. And it didn't feel, as I was going through it, that there was any real reflection that Indigenous communities were a priority or even thought about in the strategic plan. And I struggled because if Indigenous people weren't representative, our women would be even more underrepresented. So there's so much work that needs to be still done to address safety issues with Indigenous women, around missing and murdered Indigenous women and safety. And I know there's the public safety plan, and some components are built in that, which you don't see like high. When you filter down, you'll see that work. But the high level, they're even just the wording doesn't reflect the relationship, because every time they identified a group, it was underrepresented or minority. I have to find the exact wording, but I did find that not truly reflective of the unique position that Indigenous people are in this community. And if we wanted to continue with reconciliation, I think that needs to be corrected and addressed.
Great, thank you. That's great feedback. I don't know if anyone else on the committee want to have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I just had a couple of additional comments. I think Cheryl's point is well taken in that, you know, the relationship, I think, with our Indigenous community is not often well understood. People think they understand it, but they don't necessarily. So I think that's an excellent point, Cheryl. Two things I would add to that. I was surprised at the low priority of homelessness within the list of the priority actions, given all of the activity and the things that are happening and the challenges that we've seen in the municipality. I would have expected to see that higher up the priority list and would have expected to see something about partnering with the province on that, because I think that's often the challenge with homelessness is the city says, no, it's the province, and the province says, no, it's the city, and nothing ever happens. So that was one surprise that I saw there. The other comment I would make would be about our role. And, you know, I liken this to sort of the policy development that I'm used to in doing my work, in that our role would be, you know, providing that input into the action plans for the areas that are responsible for the specific items that I think will touch us. The one that stands out for me is safety on public transit. That is absolutely, I think, a women and gender issue, and would be something that would benefit from, you know, us having a look-see into that and perhaps putting that lens on that as the action plan is shaped. So I would see, again, that as our role, is just providing that review with the gender lens in those areas that kind of intersect with the work that we're doing and in line with what our role is as a committee. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Natalie and Cheryl, for a really good feedback. I think there's probably, as we think about our agendas going forward, and as the city's doing their budgeting and planning, hopefully we can see if there's any intersections working with staff to, if we can bring that in. All right, Cheryl, do you want to go next?
Sure thing. So from our priorities to what we've identified that we're going to work on this year to this strategic plan, as Natalie said, I think there is a disconnect between housing. I didn't see that reflected in this plan. What I did see reflected in this plan was a real emphasis on transportation and getting around, moving around, which kind of surprised me, but not really. I'm concerned that homelessness and hunger are not, you know, bubbling up there because people are tired of hearing about it, let's say. And I still don't, whether we're tired of hearing about it or not, I think that it's going to be with us, and we have to make some real movement towards improving those areas or putting in place sustainable fixes for them. So that kind of concerned me. I always, when I look at these plans, I always look at them and think to myself, yeah, it takes me about 3 reads before I understand what it is that they're saying. And so if I could give any feedback to staff, say it in plain language, please. I mean, some of us are more used to reading that less than plain language than others, and understanding the jargon of it. So let's that's the feedback that I would have on it, and my my concern that really our priorities are not lining with council's priorities or the organization's priorities, because that is an exercise in frustration for us.
I wonder, Nancy or Virginia, do you guys have a perspective that you want to comment back from your side on these comments?
Well, I would say I agree wholeheartedly with Cheryl. I read it about 5 times to try to understand it, because plain language would be a lot better for me as well. Yeah, I mean, this is still a working document, and there's still a lot of things that, you know, that they are working through, and we're trying to understand and do what is right for our residents. And I've heard from a lot of residents how they feel that it doesn't align with them. So I think there's still a lot of work that we have to do, and we have till 2030 to do, and hopefully we can do it. Nancy, what are you going to say?
So yeah, I mean, there's so much good feedback here. If I'm being quiet, it's only because I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
You know, how do we better represent communities, i.e. Indigenous communities? That one I feel with my whole chest. What can I say? As soon as you said it, I was like, of course that's true. You know, like it is, there's a gaping hole there. And I think if there's one piece of feedback that I would take away from this whole dialogue, is just that we need to dialogue better. So I just know that I'll be taking that away. In fact, Cheryl, I would even encourage you to reach out to me and you know, continue sharing those thoughts, because I would really like to explore that better and differently. And I don't know that we can cover all that ground right here today, but so when it comes to the low priority around homelessness and hunger, how do we consider sustainable fixes for homelessness and hunger? Is there alignment with, you know, the strategic plan, and then how does this this committee align? I think I would think about it more in the way of lenses as opposed to specific action items. I think that is fundamentally the goal of the strategic plan. I think that might be a good way to think about it. Having said that, I do believe, and this is more my opinion, so Virginia, feel free to chime in, that there is kind of an appetite within council to lean into core services that HRM is responsible for. Homelessness is one of those things that is fundamentally not a municipal mandate, right? Like you know, homeless, like sheltering is done with the province. Mental health, nutrition, all of these things are provincial. Those are provincial issues, and the municipality has gotten pretty good at crack filling, I guess is the way that I would describe it. For some of those services where there are gaps. And so I think that this council is more interested in leaning into how can we deliver our core services better so that we can and having said that, we have done more. Like I know that the AIM team that got funding. I don't know if you're familiar with the AIM team. The day shelter that received funding, but I think pretty fundamentally there's an attitude that we should be leaning into our own like core service deliverables by the municipality, because there's a lot of there's a recognition that a lot of these services fundamentally rely with the province, and I know that that's a very hard and annoying message. If you're a seeker of services and, you know, the municipality says it's a province and the province says it's a municipality, and I get that there's a lot of ping-ponging that goes on. But that would be my take on, you know, where is that alignment? Because I understand that it is fundamentally a huge challenge. And if you are working in something like this, or in a committee like this, or with whatever background you come from, the likelihood is very high that you experience the outcomes of not having great policy day to day. And so I'm very sympathetic to the message. But I wouldn't necessarily say that council's first priority is homelessness, because we don't build houses, we don't run shelters, that's not, we can create environments where housing is built. We don't control how expensive they're going to be or how cheap they're going to be, whether they're, going to be affordable or not. That is just simply outside of our control. The real emphasis on transportation and getting around, I think that is very much a reflection of this council's kind of, in my view, wider mandate to lean into what are considered core services. So transit and transportation, those things fundamentally are, core mandates of the municipality. They're also, very timely, right? Like you can't, before everybody hopped on this call, who talked about traffic? Let me think, was it everybody? So, I mean, to say that it isn't a real and pressing issue is, that you can't overstate how bad traffic congestion is. Certainly the bike lane debate, that's, top of mind for council too. So we do talk a lot about transit, traffic, and transportation. It's also one of our biggest expenditures, right? So it's very front and center because that represents a significant chunk of our capital budget.
Thank you, Nancy. I know you probably have a lot more to say, but there's other folks that
sorry. I
should probably chime in.
Keep on going with the responses, but by all means.
But I'll give you an opportunity to respond again after everyone.
Can I just address one thing though before about homelessness? I mean, Nancy, you say it's not our responsibility. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's things that we possibly could do, whether if it's the zoning laws or anything of that nature, to make, affordable housing a priority in that department. Just yesterday in a police commission's meeting, we're talking homelessness. Every time I turn around, we're discussing homelessness. So one way or another, we're in the game. We're in the game. We're discussing it. We're trying to figure it. We're trying to strategize. We're doing the point in time. I mean, maybe that's the next thing that we can bring up at the next meeting is the point in time for homelessness and see where we're at. So, I mean, we are discussing it.
Yeah.
So maybe it's around language. Go ahead, Natalie.
No, I just want to add quickly to what Virginia was saying, because that's where I was going with that. The expectation is not that the city would solve the problem, but the city is heavily responsible for enforcement. So we tend to criminalize homelessness rather than deal with the issue. And then I think the impact from the city spaces, I was at the IWK, when we had folks outside on University Avenue, the impacts on the public parks, Victoria Park, I think those are the aspects of that I would have based on that, and based on certainly the impacts for policing and the challenges in dealing with folks with mental health issues and other challenges. That's kind of the angle that I see. The city is providing the core services in those areas, and needs to have a more coordinated approach along with government. So I think it's really about better alignment with the provincial government, because if we can work with them for them to come up with better solutions, that lessens the involvement from a policing perspective for the city.
Exactly.
Thank you, everyone. Well, they're all great points and topics that we should be reflecting on. Mara, you've been waiting for a long time. I'll let you go next.
I just have two things that I was thinking of. One of them was on the topic of homelessness, because it's such a big issue in HRM right now. I'm just thinking, in terms of one of the guiding questions of what's missing from the presentation, I'm just thinking, in terms of accessibility, I don't think that a lot of people are going to have time to, read the whole strategy planning document or watch the whole video. And if they're just pressing Control F to go through the document, or they're putting it into AI to see if the issue they want to hear about is going to come up, I think that there's like a key phrase that's really missing from the presentation, and I would say that it's affordable housing. That wasn't mentioned once, and I know technically that is the problem with the provincial government, but I think that is what a lot of people are looking for as an issue to tackle, even though if it's not necessarily the municipality's issue. But I think that if they are going to bring up a point like expedite the delivery of housing supply and support the development of complete communities with a mix of housing options, I just think that that would be a key phrase that would want to be brought up in that situation. And secondly, I think that even if we can't help people experiencing homelessness directly in terms of affordable housing within the municipality, I think that as our committee, I think that we should look at some of these main proposals and see how they affect the most vulnerable people within these vulnerable communities of people experiencing homelessness. And think about how women and gender diverse individuals experiencing homelessness may be affected by some of these proposals, either in good or bad ways, and how we can identify those. That's just what I was thinking about.
Good points. And I think based on what I've gleaned from watching and looking at it, the city is in the middle of action planning. And I think that's where the rubber hits the road. So, if there are specific initiatives that we want to take a look at, we can see if we can bring those forward and make sure that we're involved. Right, Elizabeth or Amy or Carla, I think those are important. Appreciate that. Cheryl, do you want to pipe in again? Murphy?
I can't get myself off of
We can hear you now.
Okay, good. So everything that Natalie, that Murray, that the greater Cheryl has done is talks to how we, or speaks to how we should approach our work this year and what advice we could give to councillors, right? It's through the province. It's with proposals that are like, or action plans or whatever that are with, and it's including in an Indigenous lens, I guess. Those are all things that we can speak to the province, to council with, and not necessarily feel the frustration that we would if we're just going at it from banging at it from providing affordable housing and keeping people from being hungry, right? So.
Yeah, maybe Rhiannon,
Yeah.
I'll give you a second, or do you want to go?
Oh, sorry, I am ready.
Great, go.
Yeah, so appreciate all of these thoughts in this discussion a lot. I think, the best format for receiving this information being watching like 20 minutes of a 40-minute video and going through like a 100-page document is kind of telling that, like, putting this down into ways we can all like understand and talk about is something that's maybe not there yet, but I think that that's okay. A couple thoughts, like many people have talked about this, but it's the homelessness for me as well. I think Natalie said it great. Like, I don't think there's any expectation that like HRM is going to solve homelessness, right? Like, that's not happening in a global way right now. I don't think it's going to happen here. But I think that it is just like, it's worrying when like that's what is top of mind for everything we talk about. Like you said, Virginia, like it shows up everywhere, right? And it's not going away. And when you look at like KPIs for this point about improving the well-being of community members at risk of experiencing homelessness by enhancing supports and resources, it talks about like partnership with other organization and reducing homeless encampments and people sleeping rough. And it's like, it's not, it's not addressing things, but it's just like almost written as if it's like hoping they go away, without providing like tangible supports or solutions, except to say partnerships. And like, I don't think it's going to be something that's solved, but I do think it's like lofty to just like have partnerships and just a reduction of homelessness as the strategy, or as some of the action points. And I also think it's like relevant to look at like, the column around kind of resources and spending and likelihood to affect change, and like you look at the transportation one and it's all except for one significant additional resources. And transportation is an issue. Like, yeah, I don't love driving in this city sometimes. Like it isn't the most easy to get around. You won't catch me saying like we don't need to work on our transportation. But then the improve the well-being of community members at risk of experiencing homelessness by enhancing supports and resources is flagged as within existing resources. Like it's not giving more. It's staying the same, but expecting a reduction in what's happening. And like, I don't know. I think y'all are doing great work, and I think that that's truly like working against like impossible constraints of human nature. But I just do think that there's more space for it. The last just like really small note I have is just about language. In the prosperity one, the fifth point is attracting, retaining, and growing domestic and international business and talent. Shout out for like naming immigration in this document, but it's always like a little worrying to me when like newcomers are only mentioned when they're connected to like productivity or like skilled labor, and just like not a read on like this document, but just saying like in this record that like, we as people or like newcomers, immigrants have more value than just like productivity and contributing to a workforce. So just seeing that and working in immigration is just like a little bit of a red flag for me, but I appreciate that it's mentioned. That's all.
Great, thank you, Raylan. Really good points. Delaney, was she left? I think she was the only one who hadn't spoke up yet. I think she's gone, unfortunately. So as I've been listening to all of the comments, I guess it sounds like things are falling a little bit in the cracks in terms of mandate of HRM versus others. And I wonder if there is an opportunity where HRM could take the leadership around system solving for these issues, like bringing their partners to the table. And maybe that's already happening, and that's why the language talks about partners, but to actually just take the leadership, because the majority of the people who live in Nova Scotia is in their HRM, and bringing in key partners that are solving for these problems, like the United Way and other non-for-profits, to help have a more systemic view of how to solve for these. This affects some of the stuff falls through the cracks between mandates, between the province, between the city, and between the organizations that are trying to solve for it. I was pleased to see that they took a DE&I lens to the strategy and applied it. I would also say that the rubber hits the road when the action plans happen. And so I don't know who holds the projects accountable to continue to have that lens, whether that's yourself, the councillors, or if that's the admin folks who are driving the projects. but I think that will be important, that whatever gets in the end funded continues to bring that lens, and should also bring in the Indigenous lens and any other pieces that we talked about here. Will be some of the things I was thinking about. The other thing I noticed was the strategy. It's good because it's got the high level objectives and the initial pipeline of ideas that want to get done. But really, we won't really understand what will get funded until the budget process, as we talked about before. So I think the next 6 months will be pretty critical to understand where the city is going to really invest their energies and resources on things. So those were my observations, Nancy. I'll bring it back to you. I know you had a lot more to say.
Oh,
so
yeah,
please.
I can talk forever. But what I would say is, so the strategic plan is ultimately what council and particularly staff use to kind of formulate the draft budget that then goes to council, that gets debated and voted on and things like that. So what I would say is while it's important, and I love this feedback, and just so you know, I'll be bringing this feedback, back to staff, because there's some, like, again, SEO for the people who actually are just trying to look for affordable housing. Could they actually have that word in that document so they didn't have to read 120 pages? Like, that would be really helpful to, us, there's some big gaping holes, and this is some really good feedback. But to your point, this is all just words until rubber meets the road and we get a look at the draft budget. So I would encourage folks, budget process is as transparent as anything you could ever imagine. So I think it's important to, keep on keeping on, right? Hold council to account by continuing to pay attention to what we do at budget season. Budget season is also, and the whole budget process is open to resident feedback. You are more than welcome to present at council. You are more than welcome to talk at council. I think that sometimes it's for some groups are committed to speaking at council. We get, and Virginia, I'm sure you remember our last budget. We had folks of many different stripes coming to speak at council regarding budget. And so I would continue just to pay attention. I would continue to encourage you to email your counselor. Don't ever wonder. We read everything. And then, it's if there's a priority, then make sure that you speak up at budget time, because it absolutely matters. So the strategic plan is what informs the budget. And I would continue to pay attention all the way through budget. Budget will be coming earlier, I believe, this year. So I guess, Elizabeth, maybe, once budget comes around, we can do another one of these things on budget, and maybe we don't think about it retroactively. We can think about it proactively. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, we've in our agenda conversations, we talked about bringing in the gentleman who was presenting, and hopefully that's at the next meeting. I think he's the finance head as well. And so talk about how budget works with the group and maybe in the IOAs. Elizabeth?
Yeah, no, I was just going to basically confirm that we do have, as per the request of the committee at the last meeting, we have presentations lined up with budget and also the Just Food program as well. So that will be, I believe, either October or November. Those presentations will be coming forward.
Maybe I'll give the staff an opportunity. Do you have any perspective or thoughts that you would like to share? Seeing no from Carla, Amy, or Rain. Anything else, Elizabeth?
Maybe I'll just say Yeah, and nothing profound. Just to say that I think the conversation is really rich, and so many of the things that you folks have brought up here, I think, can be like starting points or pathways for future conversations around how you're implementing your work plan and how the committee is influencing decisions. So, yeah, just to say, I think it's really good conversation.
So I made a bunch of notes, and I think Elizabeth, you've been taking lots of notes, but the major theme I was hearing was around making sure that we don't miss any of the key populations, like our Indigenous population, and homelessness came up multiple times. Accessibility and communication, like this strategy is quite robust. It was very rigorous, as I mentioned before, but the getting to the meat of it is difficult for folks. So is there any way that the staff can make it more accessible once it's all finalized with the language? That'd be good. And making sure that I think there's a lot of language omissions in there that we need to make sure that it represents the folks that we care about. What else have I missed here? And transportation seems to be an important theme and a bit of a worry that there's going to be more investment there than on the homelessness and places that we want. Have I missed anything in terms of the feedback? Those are the key takeaways that I wrote down. I'm sure there's more. Anything else that the group wants to?
Michelle, I just wanted to clarify that my concern about the transportation, the load on transportation was, and I kind of knew this coming in, Nancy, because I've been listening, that there is an emphasis now on going back to core services. Not a bad thing, right? Not a bad thing. But my concern was that it would all be spent on transportation, and there would not be any work towards sustainable fixes, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. My big worry when I looked at it is many of the really important initiatives, as all new things are, take additional funding, additional resources, and those are really key and important. And then to Rhiannon's point, in some cases, it doesn't look like they've put enough resources around some of the important stuff that they've been doing for a while, but maybe we need to revamp it and be more comprehensive or do some things around it. So I think the next couple of months will be important to understand what's going to happen and where we can maybe have an impact as a committee to raise these issues for the committee or for the council or for the staff to reflect on. Is there anything else, any other things that we can provide to the councillors to take away? Any other reflection points? Beyond hearing about the budget and I guess food.
I need to step away for just 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay, no worries. Was there anything from the strategy that raises things up for you that we need to also hear about really soon? Amy, you had your hand up.
Oh, sorry, Michelle. I think it's not in response to just your last question there, but I was wondering, and this is also information that maybe if we don't have this info, we could ask the strategic priorities plan team. But I wonder, Councillor Hartland, do you know, because my understanding based on the process is that the staff are integrating some of the feedback that have come from council and other folks on what was presented. Do you know by any chance when it's scheduled to sort of come back in its, more a more finalized form, the plan?
So as near as I remember, the truth of the matter is that I think that more or less is the strategic plan. That yeah, that was, like those priorities were already presented to us. So I don't know that there is more to be done necessarily with the strategic plan. I'd have to get back to you on that. It's really, I think that the strategic plan, while it's hugely valuable, it's more or less like a roadmap or a guide to inform the other things that go on, right? Like, how do we, the budget is not, crafted by individual counselors. The budget is a much bigger beast, obviously. So that kind of helps inform, how the initial budget is presented, things like that. I don't know that there's lots more opportunities for us to inject new things or new ideas into the strategic plan. But what I like from the takeaways that I heard today, I think that like so much of it is valuable, regardless of what piece or what document or whatever it is that we pick up. Yeah.
I would, I guess my impression is you're right. That's the strategic plan, the language there. Maybe it can be amended, but the key part is the action plan, which is the execution plan of the strategic plan.
Yeah.
And usually that can make or break whether we actually achieve those objectives or not. So I think that's what we need to keep our eyes out for, is whatever the business groups are, now that they have the direction of these objectives and the priorities of council and the admin, what are they prioritizing in their action plans, and how are they resourcing it? And are they thinking about it from these, strategic perspectives and lenses? And we should add, all the lenses we talked about that I think are key. Rhiannon?
Yeah, just I don't know if I mentioned it before, but just like a lot of appreciation for like you, Councillor Hench and Councillor Hartling, for doing this. I know that like many people today had like criticisms or issues to bring up, and that's frequently what we do, but like you both, I appreciate watching you both like lead and take part in this committee, and talk about like the work that you do and the work that you will do. And like thinking about that last question of like advice we can give counselors to support, women and gender equity seeking people in this strategy, like, and you, Councillor Hartling, talking about like coming to council and encouraging people to have discussions. Just want to say that I'm like appreciative of the work that you both do, and grateful that we can have like space to have these conversations.
Yes, I think it looks like everybody's clapping their hands and echoing that sentiment.
Well, I'm glad to be here, so thank you.
Same as me, I find that this is an amazing group, and I feel like I'm open to have those conversations and allowed to speak my mind. So I appreciate that a lot.
It's great. Have we missed anything? Have we talked about all the key points on this topic? Is there any takeaways for us beyond making sure that we get our fingers in the action plans as appropriate? Okay, I think we beat that one down. So thank you again to the councillors and the staff for doing all the work. I know how much work it is to do a strategic plan, and thank you to everybody in this committee for bringing your perspectives and advice and counsel to make the action plans hopefully even better. Okay, I think that's it. Let me just see where, oh, it isn't it. I would like to invite Councillor Hartling to deliver an update on what the council's been up to.
Right, so for all those, and I think really we are first and foremost really just talking about the regional plan, because I don't know how closely you all follow it, but we thought that our regional plan was pretty much done and dusted. And then it went to the province and actually it got rejected. So that is where we are right now. So it's kind of an interesting moment in time. The regional plan, that represents years and years worth of work, like, you know, well before, you know, my time on council, Councillor Hitch's time on council. So there's still work to be done around the regional plan. But that, I'm sorry, yeah, the strategic plan was approved by council. I'm talking about our regional plan, right? So that's the planning document.
Just responding to Cheryl's question about strategic plan, if it was approved by council.
Oh, yes.
Sorry for the confusion. That wasn't, the chat was not directed at you.
I thought that was for me. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure that.
No, you're all good. Carry on.
Nancy, can you just briefly, what's the difference between the regional and the strategy plan?
So, right. So the regional plan pretty much defines how and where we grow as a municipality. It represents, you know, the bylaws, changes to bylaws. Again, it's essentially like a big planning document that oversees how and where we grow in the municipality. So for somebody like me, I pay very close attention to planning districts 1 and 3 and planning district 4, because that is, you know, that is my district. There really wasn't a lot of, you know, growth potential in those, but I'm sure if you were in Councillor Hinch's, you would have, you know, a much different, so Virginia's shaking her head. But it's a 2,000-page document. I was kind of, that's just more of the strategic plan was passed. It's a 2,000-page document. It's incredibly exhaustive. And that is another one that comes with an awful lot of community engagement. The amount of community engagement that goes along with the strategic plan is staggering. Because of the rejection, we'll have to go through that, I believe, community engagement again. So it's another opportunity to take part and understand, you know, where we are as a municipality and how we're trying to grow. So that was, I think, probably my biggest update, if I'm being honest, is that, we are currently working with an amended strategic plan from 2014, working with the province to figure out what we can do to get this across the finish line. That is probably the biggest single item presented with council, or presented at council at the moment. Anything that you want to add to that, Virginia?
No, not really. I mean, like between District 7, 8, and 9, you know, we have our challenges with things as well, but yeah, you know, there's a lot of big projects that are coming up in our districts. So with the Robie Street widening, with, you know, the Windsor Street Exchange. So those are mostly what my residents and other residents are quite concerned about, you know, the trees and all that. So that's what it's a big document. It's a big document. And so much to go through.
And it's really unfortunate that it wasn't approved, given the process that it's already been through.
But the fact that it was so outdated as well, I can kind of understand it. And, you know, if we're going to do community engagement again, I'm happy for that. Because there's a lot of people that have, you know, a lot to say about it, so they can voice their concerns again. So that's what I'm most excited to see, and see what comes out of that.
I'm still a little bit unclear what a regional and what the difference
So
between regional and strategy.
it's a planning. I can tell you, it's a planning document, and it speaks to what types of development can be in what areas. So where can you have a permanent building? Where do you have a single family? Where do you have low rise multiple all that kind of
Right.
things. Where do you have commercial? And it talks about all the regulations around those, like how many feet from the street, how many, you
Got it.
know,
Okay. But
if you,
so that's in support of the strategic plan, which talks about growth and communities in some ways, right? It's more
Yes.
of an execution plan or the how.
So
Cody?
I would say that the strategic plan much more informs the budget. The regional plan informs how and where we grow. Right.
Okay.
So while they are, well, I would say that all things are related, you know, nothing
Mhm.
exists in isolation. The regional plan really has to do more with bylaws. And you know, kind of to Cheryl's point, like what kind of housing can you put where? And what kind of commercial can you put where?
Okay. So that's
So
actually an interesting lever or tool when we think about homelessness in some ways, right?
Well,
now, can you,
it's also the growth of the city as well, and how one of my concerns is, you know, development, what that looks
Mhm.
like and especially in my area. So there's a
so,
lot. Go ahead.
oh, sorry, Virginia. I thought
That's
you were
okay.
finished. No.
I'm finished.
I'm just looking at Amy's little note there about us having contributed insights to the regional plan review back in 2021.
Oh, we
The
did.
committee, I
Oh.
mean, yeah.
Ah,
Mhm.
so
So,
it's that long in the
so maybe
making.
that's an opportunity if it's come back to look at it again. You're like, oh boy.
I feel like that's a great idea, actually. If we are interested, given that the new regional plan will not be like this is not something that we're going to figure out in our next council meeting or you know anything like that.
Oh, sounds big.
If there is any appetite to review like what happened in 2021, I think that would be really interesting. I would be very open to doing that. I don't know what our agenda currently looks like, Chair or Madam Chair, but that would be an interesting conversation for sure.
Well, next month is full because we try and just stick with 2 agenda items. So, but maybe for November or depending on the right timing, depending on which takes priority, strategic plan or the regional plan. I think we should definitely look at opportunities there. Maybe Elizabeth or group, we can figure out how to insert that. This sounds like it's a good tool potentially where we can have some influence. Any other questions for Nancy or Virginia on that? What the council is up to? No, everybody's ready to end the meeting. I think we're getting tired. It hasn't been a full 2 hours, so maybe let's give you. I don't know if there is a limit or if it's a 2-hour meeting, but people are looking a little tired now. So let's give everybody some time for their evening to enjoy this great weather. Unless there's anything else that anybody wants to say.
I think there's some things that you forgot to do.
There were no added.
Forward. Yeah, information's brought forward.
Is it?
And
okay. So,
number 8.
Number 8, there was none. I think
Right.
oh, maybe I didn't say that. Okay. So number 8, there was nothing.
Okay.
Number 10, there was no additional items. Number 11, our next meeting's October 2nd, and as we shared, we have presentations on the budget and on the food program.
When did you say our next meeting was?
October 11th?
2nd.
No. Oh, 2nd. Sorry, I thought you said 11.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Sorry.
Anyway, yeah.
It's probably my hair. You can't, it's messing up my audio. Is that better? Anyway, it's October 2nd. And if there's, and I believe we're now at the end of the meeting. So I require a mover. Oh, I'll pick Nancy. Thank you. All right. Is that all I need to do, or do I need to do a motion?
Nope, you're good.
You're all good.
All right, we're done. Thank you.
All right.
And you guys have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the warm weather while we have it, and we'll see you guys next month.
Lovely
Have a good night,
meeting with
everyone.
you.